At Wildlife Conservation Network, we believe there is hope for even the most threatened species. And we know it will take a community working together to make that hope a reality. That's why we invest in local leadership and conservation around the world, support a network of partners with bold, effective solutions, and establish wildlife funds to save a threatened species across its entire habitat. We connect donors with the conservation work they support and ensure 100% of their money goes to the work they care about. Together, we are building a world where people and wildlife can coexist and thrive.
WCN is perhaps the most extraordinary and successful conservation organization anywhere.
Join us in creating a future for wildlife.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us for day 2 of WCN's Conservation Expo. In this session, we have an awesome lineup of presentations by women who save wildlife. To start us off, we have a presentation by Dominique Gonçalves, who will tell us about the elephant ecology project in Mozambique's Gorongosa National Park, and this will be followed by a Q&A session with Dominique.
Hello everyone, I am Dominique Gonçalves and I manage the Elephant Ecology Project in Gorongosa National Park. I am very honored to be here and present at the WCN Expo, and thank you all for joining us today. Gorongosa National Park is one of my country's most important treasures. The park is a 4,000 square kilometer protected area right at the end of the Great Rift Valley in Africa. These unique features, this location has supported some of the more densest wildlife populations in Africa. But all these populations and habitats was decimated during a 16th civil war in Mozambique, in which more than 1 million people died in my country. We had peace in 1992, exactly the year I was born, but at that time we had lost most of our natural heritage in all of our country. As an example, in our national parks, and especially in our flagship national park, Gorongosa, more than 95% of animals, large animals, were killed. For example, for elephants that we had more than 2,500 after the war, when we finally had peace, we had less than 200 remained. Elephants were killed for the ivory, and the ivory were traded so the parties could sustain the war. And the meat of elephants and many other wildlife were also killed to sustain a lot of people and the armies that they needed to feed. However, when we had peace, there was also a moment that our leaders decided that it was time to pay more attention in our natural heritage and perhaps change the way of doing conservation in Mozambique, in my country. They said then that the national parks and protected areas should be then engines of human development and give back to the people that they share the land with. In the next video, you'll hear my colleague and friend Larissa explaining what is the park's mission and vision and what is Gorongosa today.
Gorongosa National Park in Mozambique is known as one of Africa's greatest wildlife restoration stories. In 2008, the park had only 10,000 large animals. Today, over 100,000. But the Gorongosa project isn't just about rewilding this iconic wilderness. Inspired by the shared vision of Mozambique's former president, Joaquim Chissano, and Nelson Mandela, there's a deep commitment that the park should benefit the local people. The park provides over 600 jobs in conservation, science, tourism, and human development. Our community health workers reach over 100,000 vulnerable people every year. Our sustainable agriculture projects, like growing coffee on Mount Gorongosa, improve the incomes and the lives of farm families. Mandela was right when he said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. So we build new schools, support teachers, and run many after-school programs like the girls' clubs. We're working to keep girls in school so that they can have the same opportunities in life as the boys. And every year, we bring thousands of local children on safari in the park so they can reconnect with their precious natural heritage. Some of them may choose to become part of our team, so we provide many different training courses and internships. Students can even study for a master's degree in conservation biology in Gorongosa. We are showing the world an example of what a national park can be. We are Gorongosa.
Gorongosa has attracted the attention of scientists from around the world that see an opportunity to address in real time fundamental questions of ecology, evolution, the rise and fall and shifted distribution of species, and changes in the landscape. All this safe and welcoming environment that the park gives to scientists has also given an amazing platform to many questions to be asked and answered. One of the main species that I've been studying closely is, of course, elephants. And many projects have dealt with the identification and studying the identification and behavior of our elephants and all that has been changing in the landscape due to the lack of their big influence during many years. However, elephants' populations are recovering really fast. Now, since when we had war, we have approximately 1,000 elephants, and it's a great increase from the less than 200 that survived the war 30 years ago. In 2018, myself and colleagues founded then the Elephant Ecology Project. The Elephant Ecology Project has three main pillars, and this is what I would like to talk to you and present more about today. First of all, our work is a blend of ecology, human-elephant interactions focusing on coexistence, and support of girls' education. In our three pillars, we do an assessment and monitoring of this recovering elephant population using GPS satellite trackers, camera traps, and ground monitoring. We also support our coexistence teams with strategies, equipment, training, and giving a huge push in terms of gender inclusivity and women empowerment. And also for supporting girls' education, we work closely with the park's Girls Club. To start, with ground monitoring and camera traps, whenever it's possible, we'll go and monitor our elephant population on the ground. The park has a road network, only covers 20% of the park. However, there's still enough to sometimes find some herds and monitor them closely, so we keep building the database of who is who and who is joining who and what are they playing, what are they eating, and if everyone is safe or not. We find that is very important also to record the constantly behavior changes that we're seeing in our elephant population, elephant recovering population. With our camera traps, we'll be able to see what is the elephant population and the formal hunting area that Gorongosa is now managing. Since the park started managing the formal hunting Contadas 12, hunting is ceased, and now the park manages with all the cleaning basically of all the things that would be harmful for wildlife in our habitats, and also keeping the place safe and pristine for wildlife as well, looking now in ways of bring more human development and support and bring benefits to the community surrounding this area. We set an array of 100 camera traps in this new area because we always knew that there were elephants there. We could see the signs, we could hear the stories, we could hear the old rangers and the communities talking about elephants, but we never actually had any encounter or seen them. We set a grid of 100 camera traps to assess the elephant population in that area, and because this area is surrounded by many other hunting areas that are not fenced, elephants just roam freely around this massive landscape, and it's quite seasonal. With our camera traps, we were able to see who are there, how many family groups, the age structure, and the size and structure of the family groups, and so on. Our cameras are still there and still providing a lot of information, not only on the elephants, but many more of the other wildlife species that exist in that rich area. The other thing we do with the assessing and monitoring of this recovered population in Gorongosa is using telemetry and GPS tracking to see where our elephants, where they go, what they do, when they go. Knowing where elephants are, it's really useful in terms of understanding the ecological and behavior dynamics, and especially now that there's way more people around the areas where they now roam. Areas that they once called home, but now things have changed. As they come back and they recolonize these areas, there's more people, and this brings a lot of challenges to us. Gorongosa National Park has an area we call the buffer zone. In this buffer zone, more than 200,000 people live. It is in this buffer zone where most of our, if not all, actually all of our human development, sustainable development, equity, equality, gender inclusion, and all other programs are specifically directed to. Because we do believe that then, in turn, the community will support the park and conservation efforts. With the tracking of these elephants, we were able to see how they're using the area outside the park, when they leave, where they go, how much time they spend outside and where. And we can see already the difference in seasons, the seasonalities, the elephants who spend more in one community and not in another, and so on. And this has helped us to see and really triangulate information about human-elephant conflict. This information is really important to us to inform and adapt our mitigation and coexistence strategies in the ground. You see, Gorongosa National Park is not fully fenced on the southern border, which is now where elephants basically cross the river. The Pungo River is the only barrier between the communities and the park. So the elephants cross the river and enter the community areas, and many times they wander around where the community has their crops, and then there's a huge situation of conflict. In the most recent years, human-elephant conflict has become a real part of life in the southern border of the park. As in many places near protected areas, elephants often will enter communities and raid a farm. Often these crops are a farmer's total livelihoods, and losing a field means losing an harvest to sell, to feed their own family. So this is a problem that we cannot just leave it unattended. Thanks to all the tracking movement data and also many other work in the ground with our surrounding communities, we have been able now to create more means and work together with the communities to try and create coexistence. And this is one of the things that the Elephant Ecology supports the team. Our coexistence team is multi-sectorial, meaning that many departments give input, such as science, human development, sustainable development, conservation, and others. But the most important part is the community works with us. In order to help build coexistence between the communities and the wildlife, especially elephants, we're using a famous technique now, tested, proven, and used in many other places, which is the use of beehive fences to stop elephants. But these beehives are tended by the people, by the women and men from our communities. They are the ones who take care of them. They maintain and keep them on spot, working well, so elephants could not enter and raid their farms. This initiative is amazing, it's beautiful, because it teaches people how to, develop different relationship with nature, using nature with nature, and not only brings more food security in terms of not having their crops raided by elephants, but also bring additional sweet benefits from the honey these bees provide. Then the other beautiful part of this initiative is that beehive or beekeeping is highly traditionally seen as a man area in our communities. However, the desire to support coexistence and the desire to keep their farm safe is not gender biased. So we now have a lot of women who come together and also being, the leaders of this coexistence strategy in the ground. And this is what we say with the supporting of gender and women and bringing women empowerment to areas of work in our communities that were mostly seen as traditionally men-driven. The last and perhaps the most important work that the Elephant Ecology Project does is support girls' education with the Role Models Initiative. You might remember in the video Larissa talking about Girls Club. Girls Club, which is a club, an after-school girls club to help maintain girls in school and prevent, the rate of early marriage and pregnancies in our communities. With the Girls Club doing an amazing work, some of us used to go and visit these clubs and share our stories. However, it was not enough. And we finally were able, with the Elephant Ecology Project support, we were finally able to bring more women to share the stories so the girls can see it. Because we do believe if a girl can see it, she can be it. And the Girls Education Role Model Initiative is a program or initiative that has three main steps. And the first one is this beautiful brochure, where it's a brochure, education material that has all the women nominated from different departments in the park, women working in science, conservation, tourism, agriculture, sustainable development, education, health, everything, every woman that work in a different area in the park are nominated, and then they're part of this brochure when they talk about their life, their education, they're driven, and what are they driven for, and they give an amazing advices for the girls in this brochure with amazing pictures of their work as well. And with this work, with this brochure, we hope that each girl from each club will receive this brochure, and she will study and learn about these many women who just look like them, and some of them are actually from the same communities where these girls are from. And we do hope that this initiative, with this time for them to absorb this information, they will be able to learn, and they see the different possibilities that they can have if they retain or stay in school. The second part of this is that these girls come then and meet their role models, either in the park or the role models visit the girls' clubs, and they have this amazing time where the girls already know who they are, which role model is visiting, what she does, and they have the opportunity to talk and ask and answer questions about the role models, not only life, personal life, but also career, education, and work life itself. And it's a beautiful treat, not only for the girls that we hope to inspire, but also for the women, my colleagues, that work so hard and break so many barriers of the society about what a woman can or cannot do. And we see that this might be a big change. It's a change that we all need in our societies, because we do believe that by teaching and empowering girls, they will become then the leaders, the matriarchs that will pass this information, this knowledge to other generations, and this will remain in this cycle, just as elephants do, matriarch elephants do. They do pass every knowledge to others and other generation. And with that, we hope that women and girls in our communities, we help preserve and maintain these ecosystems and wild places and wildlife that we all depend on for a healthy and safe future. Thank you.
And now it's my pleasure to introduce to you all Dominique. She's a wildlife ecologist and manager of the Gorongosa National Park Elephant Ecology Project in Mozambique. And as you saw in the presentation, Dominique focuses on elephant ecology, human-elephant conflict, and building coexistence between communities and wildlife throughout the park's buffer zone. Dominique also works closely with Girls Club programs, and she promotes conservation education and women's health. She's currently a PhD student at the University of Kent and is actually the current member of WCN's first career program cohort. Welcome, Dominique.
Thank you, Zoe. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you, everyone who took the time to watch the presentation.
That was amazing. And just, yeah, I like how you ended it with telling us about the work that you guys are doing with women, because this entire session is called Women Who Save Wildlife. So everyone, please make sure you're sending in your questions. And I'm going to start with one of the first questions. And this is from Danielle Portneau. And the question is, beehive fences sound interesting. Are they expensive to get set up?
That's a great question, Danielle. It depends. It can be expensive depending on the not just the number, but intensity of how much you want to do it. But here in Gorongosa, we're really focusing in using local material. So, you know, using sustainable wood and sustainable beehives for the, you know, the Kenyan top bar or the long straw. So we're trying to really focus on which one's the better, would give us better production or better occupancy at bees. But there's also other components such as the ropes and the poles. We have this amazing idea as well of trying to use green poles so it can grow green and you know, become a living fence, as Lucy already described once. But it takes time and it takes a lot of resources. I would say that in a small scale, depending on how big you want to do, it might be very doable. But in the case of Gorongosa National Park, that our southern border is huge and conflict is really being, you know, very frequent, we do need to put way more effort. And of course, it becomes quite expensive. But at the end of the day, it's all worth it for food security and coexistence.
Absolutely. Lilia Babe wants to know if the new outbreak of violence in Mozambique may have an impact on Gorongosa.
The new outbreak in violence in northern Mozambique. I believe that's what you mean. Well, what can I say? Anytime there's a violence or something somewhere in our country, of course, there's tons of government advice travel against, and this impacts massively on tourism and relations with donors and many things. So yes, it might indirectly affect Gorongosa in terms of people not coming for tourism in Mozambique, not only Gorongosa, but many other parts of Mozambique. I know that, for example, Niassa might be in a worse situation than Gorongosa, Niassa Reserve, because of the proximity. We have been also in that situation when years ago we also had conflict right here in Gorongosa, and yes, the impact was massively, not only thinking about tourism, because we learned from the pandemic that you know, shouldn't be the only thing, but also in terms of our communities and our work in the community. We might be, you know, not allowed or not having full access to reach our communities, to do our work, to have our support with for the community. So I would say indirectly it might affect if it impacts directly on the number of people who would like to come and visit Gorongosa and also support our conservation project.
Yeah, war is bad for everyone, honestly.
Yeah.
Adrienne from Oakland Zoo wants to say what a great program, and I agree. And she wants to know, what is the largest challenge that you overcome when starting to work with women, especially?
I don't even think we have overcome yet the biggest challenge or anything. I think we just manage and we roll it slowly. I think there's a lot of, I would say that girls' education, the lack of girls' education is a massive challenge, you know, and that's why we focus so much in after school clubs and girls' education, women education, and women leadership in their community as well, because we want to really focus and empower and bringing education and leadership in communities that men or male education and leadership is prioritized, right? So I would say this is the main thing. It's not like the women wouldn't want or anything. In many of our programs, I heard from my colleagues, it's like, for example, even with the girls club, we have this group of women, all the women who support the girls. They are the madrinas or godmothers of the girls. So they are also the whistleblowers in case something wrong is happening, and they keep the eye on the girls. And many of them have said to us that, they wish that in that time they also had something like that. So I think it's just trying to bring a change. And of course, people will be skeptical in the beginning until they start seeing some fruits. And then, because people are sensible as well, no one really wants that as a fact. There's a lot of other complexities, poverty, some culture traditions, but I would say mainly poverty. So it's actually, I would say the biggest challenges would be perhaps showing that it's possible, showing one result, and then the people actually come along. Because unfortunately, in many places near protected areas or in protected areas, the people, there's so much wrong past done to them that it takes way longer time and effort for people to trust and, to give it a go.
Absolutely. And well, at least you're already chipping away at some of those challenges. We are almost running out of time. I'll ask one last question, and then please join Dominique in her booth and ask the rest of the questions that I didn't get to. The last question is, obviously, as you know, the path to a career in wildlife conservation is not as straight as becoming a lawyer. So what words of wisdom and encouragement do you have for other young people who are trying to break it into a career in wildlife conservation?
Oh, wow. What a question. One thing that I always kept to myself, saying to myself, and I start repeating to the others, is like, yes, it's not easy for some of us. There's not many opportunities to do so. It is very blocked, very challenged, or we don't see ourselves there because it's hardly represented in, there's no role models, let me say, that you could see. But I would say that, take any opportunity you have. And if there's no opportunity, you make sure that you make one opportunity so you'd be in the system. For me, it is basically how I started. Yes, I studied ecology and so on, but to actually be in practice and do the work, I took every opportunity I could in terms of, field seasons and a little experience here and there and trying new things until I ended up with elephants and working with elephants. So yeah, make the opportunities happen if they're not there for you.
Absolutely. And while they do have one more role model in you, thank you so much, Dominique. And I hope you see lots of people in your exhibitors booth. And for the next presentation, we will be staying in Africa and hear from the Okapi Conservation Program team about the awesome work that they do with women to save a mythological reclusive giraffe species called the Okapi. This species is found only in DRC, and to prevent this rare animal from disappearing, OCP monitors their small populations in Okapi Wildlife Reserve, and they work with authority to tackle threats to the Okapi, such as the illegal mining, logging, and bushmeat poaching. After the presentation, we will have a chat with OCP team, and you can get a chance to ask them all of your burning questions.
Hello, I am John Lucas, President and founder of the Okapi Conservation Project. My sincerest thanks to the WCN donors and supporters and to the WCN staff for all their assistance over the years. For 35 years, the staff of the Okapi Conservation Project has worked with the Institute in Congo for the Conservation of Nature, the Wildlife Conservation Society, UNESCO, and the German Biodiversity Fund to conserve Okapi, a secret and mysterious giraffe species found only in the rainforests of DRC. OCP maintains 5 offices around the reserve, which are the base of our education agroforestry team. Each office also has a MARFO group associated with it. Has long believed that by empowering women, the environment and Okapi will benefit. It is my sincere pleasure to introduce Rosie Roof, our on-site director. She's an outspoken advocate of providing economic opportunities for the women of our region.
Hello everyone, my name is Rosemary Roof. I am the person responsible for Okapi conservation a project in Congo, in Zaire, exactly in Epulu, Okapi Wildlife Reserve. I have been with Okapi Conservation for 35 years, and during all this time I have made experience with the women here in Africa, and I realized how difficult their life is, looking at their obligations against the family, to see how they have to keep the kids, getting the water, getting the firewood, and taking care about the whole family. And so for us, for me, it was a wake-up call to see what we could do for them in order to give them more credibility, more independence in their life, and to show them their value. And so this is why we started quite early after our arrival to work with women closer together. And today we have this woman club called Marfo, where women get together to learn sewing, knitting, broderie, and also gardening. It gives them more possibility to earn their lives, to getting more independent from their husband, and to get their own money for supporting their family. So this is what I feel like it has come a long way, but I feel still it's more necessary to get those women more independent. So what we are having in mind is to giving those women support, more independent, but also an income. They could participate on sharing the cost for a family. But we also had in mind that these women related to Marfo are our ambassadors for conservation, because we talk to them once a week on different topics, how they can help to protect the wildlife reserve. And this is quite good. They have an influence on the other women in town which are not having those knowledge, not having this information. And you see some of the changes. You see the changes in quite a few women, and also those other women not participating in our Marfo program would like to join us. So it's a kind of organization who in the future we would like to have even more possibility on impact on the conservation side.
Moi, c'est Karine Makonga, éducatrice environnementale de la réserve des faune à Okapi, compte WCG-OCP, basé à l'Athènes de Mombasa. Mon rôle dans le programme d'éducation est de sensibiliser la communauté qui se trouve dans la réserve de la faune à Okapi et hors réserve de la réserve des faunes à Okapi. Je m'occupe aussi d'encadrer les groupes de femmes. Ce groupe s'appelle Maman Amis de la réserve des faunes à Okapi. Et le groupe de ces femmes, ça se trouve dans 5 sites. Ça se trouve à Mombasa, à Epulu, à Nyanya, à Wamba et à Mungwere. À Mombasa, elles sont au nombre de 68 mamans amies de la réserve des faunes à Okapi. À Epulu, elles sont au nombre de 45 mamans. À Nyanya, elles sont au nombre de 44 mamans. À Wamba, elles sont au nombre de 53 mamans. Et à Mungwere, elles sont au nombre de 54 mamans. Les activités que font ces mamans, elles exercent 3 activités différentes. Première activité, la coupe et couture. Deuxième activité, nappe et broderie. Et troisième activité, c'est les jardins. À coupe et couture, elles produisent des nouveaux modèles de blouses pour les femmes, des robes et des uniformes pour les écoliers. À broderie et nappe, elles produisent des tricots de bébés et des nappes bébés. Au jardin, elles produisent des tomates, oignons, choux, aubergines et poireaux. C'est ça les trois activités que font les mamans amies de la réserve des fonds à Okapi. Pourquoi il est très important? Généralement, les femmes sont marginalisées. C'est pour cela qu'il est très important d'encadrer les groupes de femmes. Parce que les femmes sont des ambassadrices. C'est pour cela qu'on dit qu'éduquer une femme, c'est éduquer toute une nation. Et ce que j'apprécie aux mamans, et ce que j'apprécie dans leurs activités, j'apprécie toutes ces activités. J'apprécie la broderie, la couture, les jardins parce que c'est complémentaire. C'est ce que j'apprécie dans leurs activités. J'apprécie presque toutes leurs activités. Ce que j'aime faire avec cette association, j'aime faire passer les messages de la conservation aux mamans parce que les mamans sont des ambassadrices de la famille. La nappe, les jardins, elles sont maintenant à mesure de se prendre à charge. C'est ça qu'il est très important d'encadrer et je remercie le projet WCG-OCP pour l'appui aux mamans. Vraiment, je suis contente. Merci.
Ninaitwa na jina Bakwa Marceline, niko presidente wa kikundi ya Marfo Epulu. Na kisha mama presidente tuko pena ba komite yangu, vice yangu niko naye pale, trésorière, secrétaire. Si bote tunatumika kimoja, tuna umoja na tunashukuru babarere yetu gizi biko natuletea kitu kidogo kwenye tuko naendeleza na kikundi yetu. Bila baba hatungeweza kufanya kitu hata moja. Mambo ile yote kuna tusaidia. Tunayua kushona, tunayua kubrodere, kushona manguo kidogo kidogo ya batoto iko natusaidia kwa masomo. Mambo ile ukisha ujisha ile kidogo inasaidia kulipa masomo mtoto na tunafanya jardin kidogo kidogo. Si bengine tukona nayua kufanya jardin. Kwa kufatana na initiative ya Marfo, tunayua kupanda chou, tomate, hatukuwa na tunashukuru babarere tugize badendele naye kufanya ile kazi basichoke mambo. Tuisha jisatiri kama tunakuwa leze mambo. Tulikuwa nakosa kama mtoto akisha gonjwa utapata makuta wa ile kidogo kidogo tu unafanya iko natusaidia tunashukuru na basi choke tena Mungu aendelee na kubaletea nguvu ile masiku zingine itakuya tena balete tena ya mingi wa kupitia tena yenyewe tulifanya leo. Tunashukuru papa Lucas kwa gizi ya initiative niko natufanyizia tunapata ba mashini ba maneno mingi tunafurahi sana kumuona mambo iko kitu alifika tu mbele tulikuwa katika kwa anga kuyua yeye mwenyewe anajua kama tulikuwa chini ya miti aliona kama iko kitu iko nashindikana akafanya nguvu yake effort na bakubwa wetu akule yulu na kutuletea kitu kidogo. Tunashukuru tuishapata nyumba tunakala leze tunasatiri hewa mzuri. Tunashukuru Mungu endelea kumsaidia atuletee tena nguvu na siku zingine tuweze tena kuonana tena na usalama kutoka kwake. Merci.
Rosie, Karen and Marceline for informing our WCN supporters of your important work to engage women to become our ambassadors for conservation in their communities. Working through OCP's education team, we intend to continue and hopefully accelerate our investment in women's groups. We're actually fundraising to build 2 more buildings for our women's groups in Nia and Wamba who still have to work outside. Another need we intend to address is providing more and better sewing machines and to try to incorporate a women's garden in each of our centers around the reserve. The women are organized to have a place of work. It allows us to launch more far-reaching and comprehensive conservation campaigns. One such activity that we are considering is the introduction of a more efficient cook stove in the landscape. These stoves reduce the amount of firewood by at least 75%, greatly reducing forest loss. We thank all our WCN donors for your support, and I encourage you to continue to support the women, helping us conserve Okapi. Thank you.
What an amazing program to save such a special species. We are now joined by John Lucas, the president and founder of the Okapi Conservation Program. John has over 40 years of experience in holistic wildlife conservation. And a year after I was born, John founded the Okapi Conservation Project in the Democratic Republic of Congo. But he didn't stop there. He's also a founding member and president of the International Rhino Foundation, a founding board member of WCN, a director of the Tusk Trust, and an advisor for the Conservation Centers for Species Survival. He also serves on the IUCN Species Specialist Groups for Giraffe and the Okapi. How does he do it? I don't know. We'll ask later. We are also joined by Rosie Roof, who is the director of OCP in Epulu, who you saw in the video. Welcome, John and Rosie.
Well, thank you, Zoe and Rosie. It's good to see everyone.
Awesome. So everyone keep sending in your questions, and we're going to get started with Lisa Griffith's question. And the question is, how are the husbands or the males in the communities viewing this women's initiative? Are they supportive or are they threatened by it?
So Rosie, I'll let you answer that. I think it's going to be varied by, relationships, but Rosie, do you have a general feeling?
Yeah, I know that usually the women need to get the permission from their husbands if they can join this women program. So, but we also have widows in that woman program. We have young girls. So I guess that's gonna be permitted by the parents or the widows. I assume it's a kind of key to survive and to earn their money when they are no longer supported by their husband or their family.
Cool, that's awesome. Well, it's a good opportunity for women to get involved. John, you and OCP have actually been part of WCN's network since its inception, pretty much. I wanted to know, what has that meant for you and OCP? And yeah, how do you feel, and how has it been being part of the network?
Well, the Okapi is a very little known animal, but it symbolizes one of the most important biodiversity hotspots on the planet. In the rainforest of Congo, the largest tract of forest left in Africa, and maybe one of the most intact in the world, plus the most biodiverse country in Africa. So working there and bringing the Okapi and the people of the Congo to the attention of donors has been so beneficial. Our project has been able to grow because of the support of WCN, but more importantly, we have several WCN donors that help us with targeted issues we have to address that are hard to raise money for. And so, different projects come up, like rebuilding the school roof was blown off during a storm. We reached out and WCN donors stepped forward to put the money up to rebuild the school. And we just finished that project. So that's just one of many examples of WCN just generally support, but also targeted response to crisis. And we live in a country of crisis in DRC. And so I think the openness and the caringness of the WCN donor is what really is the most astonishing thing that helps us and Rosie and our team on the ground in the Congo.
Amazing. Thank you to WCN supporters, and please keep supporting OCP. Carol Davis wants to know if the women are also helping to monitor the Okapi.
Well, the women we have some women rangers that are also in the team that we work with in the forest. But no, the women in the women's group do not help monitor the Okapi, but they do help us advocate for Okapi. One example, I was in Epulu in August and meeting with our educators, and one example was when the hunting season was closed. We have a hunting season. When it was closed, the women's group in Wamba went to the market and informed all the women that hunting season was closed, and they all stopped selling bushmeat. So it just the power of the influence of these women walking among their peers in the market saying, hey, they no longer can sell bushmeat because the hunting season is closed. And so the meat that before that would be legal, and then after that date, it would be illegal. So that advocacy really helps Okapi and all wildlife.
Yes, good job to those women.
Yes.
David, yes. Oh, David Fiddler would like to know if the Okapi population is improving, stable, or declining. How is it doing right now?
To the best of our knowledge, it's pretty much stable, maybe just very slightly declining, but stable. Because of the insecurity in the region, we haven't been able to carry out a comprehensive survey, neither has the Wildlife Conservation Society or other groups working in the area. So we depend on the patrol reports from the rangers coming back on patrol. They record Okapi sign, Okapi sightings, also elephants, chimpanzees, and other key wildlife species. So from their data, we can interpret, kinds of trends in the Okapi population. And so we've been seeing it pretty much a stable with a group just came back when I was there in August from the core conservation area. They had seen many Okapi. They saw lots of sign. So there was that was an area, this area of the reserve in the center is not open to human activities. Because the Okapi Wildlife Reserve, a lot of the reserve is open to different human activities, especially subsistence hunting from the Mbuti who live in the forest alongside Okapi.
Awesome. Well, stable is good. Stable is good. Hopefully it will start increasing soon. We have time for one last question, but there's more questions, and I hope people are going to meet you at the booth and ask these questions. Helen Lang would like to know how pressing a threat is mining and other similar activities to the environment as well as the species there.
Well, I'm going to let Rosie answer that. It is a threat, but where Rosie meets every week with the other partners to discuss, this is one of the major threats to the wildlife of the reserve.
Yeah, I think that's a big issue. Mining for gold, for diamonds, is a real threat for the reserve. I think ICCN has a very hard time sending out rangers on patrol to close down those illegal mining camps. But as soon as they turn their back, the people sneaking in again. So it's almost like a never-ending job. I would say that that's one of our biggest threat for the fauna and the flora at the moment.
Yeah, so just to go to the larger picture, the mining is very political. It involves a lot of Chinese companies, and this reaches up to the highest echelons of government in the country, and it's something that we really need the government support to control, not just because of the special protection some of these mining groups get for their illegal activities through political means. And so we're working with UNESCO to try to bring pressure on the government in Kinshasa to be a little bit more forceful on, first of all, awarding land for mining to Chinese companies, but also controlling the ones that are illegally in the reserve. So it's a big picture. And I just want to add one more comment, which is you asked about the men. When we meet with the women, they meet twice a week, and they're all with themselves. And they sing while they work, and they have their children with them, and they have a very, very relaxing time because they always say because no men are around, they're much more free to speak. And so it's one thing that they do their activity, but also gives them really a fun place and an interactive, safe space for themselves to be with the other women and share their stories about their life and their family. So it's really a great, they're always in the happiest mood when we visit them. That it's just amazing how this is just a very special thing for improving their lives.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rosie and John, for the awesome work that you do with the women and just creating that safe space for them to get together, sing and laugh without the men being there. So for our last presentation, we are visiting Peru to meet the only bear species found in South America, the spectacled bears, and the women working so hard to protect them. The spectacled bear conservation works closely with communities in Peru's alpine and lowland forests to preserve bear habitats and food supply. They also provide conservation education in an alternative livelihood program to indigenous Peruvian communities to involve them in the conservation of these rare bear species.
Hi, thanks for joining me today. My name is Robin Appleton, and I'm the founder and president of the Spectacled Bear Conservation Society, Peru. Our passionate team at SBC are working to save one of the most understudied and elusive bear species in the world, the spectacled bear. At SBC, we believe that a major solution for a healthier environment is right in front of our eyes. When women lead in conservation, indicators of success often go up, yet they are routinely excluded. 1 million species are at risk of extinction within this century, and the United Nations has recognized women's empowerment as an essential step to protecting Earth biodiversity. This is because women use and manage their landscape differently than men. So without women's perspective, we cannot achieve long-lasting outcomes for conservation. Research has found that there is an 11% increase in forest cover in areas where women lead forest management. In addition to this, women are role models for their children and invest up to 90% of their income into their families. Despite women's critical roles, however, women are consistently underrepresented and face barriers to participate in environmental decision-making. This imbalance can lead to a vicious cycle that continues to deprive women, consequently leading to unequal gender representation in environmental decision-making. This inequality further deprives women of access to formal education and financial resources, perpetuating their low social status. We believe we cannot achieve conservation success without a diversity of women in different roles within our organization, from directors to coordinators to even field biologists. Carmen, one of our young field biologists, whose family is from a remote indigenous community in northern Peru, is here to tell you her conservation story and her thoughts on gender equality in Peru.
My name is Carmen Tucto, and I am the assistant of the Research and Conservation Program at the Spectacled Bear Conservation, or SBC. Since I was a child, I always felt this connection with nature, animals, and sounds of the forest. Unlike my siblings, I was never afraid of running into a bag and showing it to them. I was considered as the weird of the family back then. So when I grew up, I realized that biology was the only career that suited me. Being able to continue having the privilege in observing animal behavior while walking on the trails is what motivates me to continue in conservation actions, like restoring, recovering, and maintaining natural areas. I consider that women and men have the same value. However, the presence of men has an advantage over the woman in conservation as well as in other areas. Nowadays, women are NGO founders, scientists, community leaders. Now, we are women and men working together achieving conservation goals. Women motivates more women, more men, and new generations in leading conservation projects, working as a team.
While many young women like Carmen have had access to better education, more indigenous women in remote parts of Peru have had limited access to education and new information due to their low literacy rate, time-consuming household work, lack of skills training, and employment opportunities. This has had adverse impacts on the quality of women's environmental decision-making powers within their own villages. We strongly believe at SBC that empowering women with environmentally sustainable economic educational resources will holistically benefit communities and biodiversity. As such, in 2010, we began an alternative artisan program called FELTI. We have implemented this program now throughout the region we work in, from communities situated in the low elevation dry forest habitat all the way up to the top of the watershed to the indigenous Quechua speaking communities. This artisan program is a skill that is learned through a series of SBC workshops and is made using 100% wool and just a barbed needle. The outcome is just absolutely incredible. Here with you now is Rosanna to talk to you more about the program itself. She is the program coordinator.
Hola, mi nombre es Rosana Castillo Flores, soy coordinadora del programa FELTI. En nuestro programa capacitamos cerca de 200 mujeres, que en la actualidad producen miles de productos al año. Tuvimos momentos desafiantes por cierre de tiendas y por falta de ventas en FELTI. Gracias a este programa FELTI y a fondos de emergencia, pudimos garantizar que el 100% de estas mujeres sigan laborando. Este programa FELTI es más que un ingreso para estas mujeres. Es un lugar de empoderamiento y un lugar donde se construye un mejor futuro.
SBC addresses the lack of economic opportunities by helping women in developing countries gain better access to sustainable livelihoods and build their self-confidence. Doing so helps ensure that their voices, skills, and knowledge play a significant role in discussions and decision-making related to conservation in their communities. Working with women through this program has helped us to build strong relationships and trust that has then allowed us together to protect pristine habitat through private protected areas. Karina, who will be talking with you shortly, has been working with SBC since the beginning. She participated in the first workshop and has played a critical role in the growth and success of this program. She has also won a Disney Conservation Award for her efforts.
Hola, soy Corina Montalbán, soy del programa de FELTI y trabajo hace 10 años en el programa. Actualmente soy coordinadora local y entrenadora de nuevas artesanas y también verifico la calidad de los productos. Anteriormente las mujeres de la zona rural trabajaban en el campo. Todas ellas, no recibían un ingreso económico. Eran marginadas por sus esposos. Los pocos ingresos que recibían, sus esposos manejaban ese dinero. Ellas no recibían ningún sol. Tenían muchos hijos de 13, 14 años. A temprana edad, ellas estaban ya con hijos pequeños. Digamos que al tener bastantes hijos no podían salir y eran escondidas de la sociedad. Actualmente proporciona la independencia a cada mujer que pertenece al programa de FELTI. Ellas son mucho más importantes en su vida. Ahora administran su economía ellas mismas, tanto así que apoyan en la educación de sus hijos. Muchas de ellas han sacado a sus hijos adelante. Ahora ellos son profesionales. Tienen una carrera gracias al trabajo que tienen ellas en el programa de FELTI. Muchas de ellas también han estado un poco delicadas de salud, pero gracias al programa de FELTI, al ingreso que han tenido, se han sabido apoyar económicamente. Y también FELTI para ellas y SBC es una familia en la cual comparten muchas cosas. Se comparten sus tristezas, sus alegrías y también comparten, parte de su vida diaria. FELTI también para ellas es salir del estrés. Ahora las mamás son mucho más importantes y crean la importancia de ellas en su vida diaria. Su ánimo es mucho más grande en este programa.
Thank you, Karina, for sharing your story. Felicita, who will be speaking next, has also been working with SBC since 2008. Felicita is native Quechua speaking and lives in a high elevation community at the top of the Leche watershed. When I first met Felicita, she spoke very little Spanish and was illiterate. From our first interaction, I knew that Felicita had a strong passion to learn, to help others, and to make the planet a better place. She originally helped us to spearhead our family planning program and later became the regional coordinator for the FELTI program in the high elevation communities.
Hola, buenas tardes. Me llamo Felicita Poriguamán Manayé, distrito de Incahuasi, soy Sierra de Lambayeque. No, hakuna cosa anima rurana y papi Incahuasi pegawar mi kuna pancancho. Chay no kunaga baka yapata, ushi yapata, chakrayman criaco rinillapa no kunaga, wamra yapata estudichine yapapa. Runa yapata chakrapi yanapanillapa, mana kanchu kuima cosas Incahuasi rurana yapa no kuna warme paga. Chay. No, cosa aligrita y arbushkane cuanto chay runakuna yatachamakkuna qayamatinqa noqa mana allitachu yarpuq pero noqa allita piensatiqa cosa allin kasha vidaypaq Chaymanta yanapamashaqkusata wamraykunata yanapanaypaq, wasipi hogarniypaq, allin ruraykunata yachrachimashi escribinaypaq, liyinaypaq, sumakunaypaq yachrakushkani. No kusata alegrita yarpuni chay yanapamashanllapapaq. Chay warmikuna cambiakaran chay trabajaq yaykurqa, pero mana ima trabajonpis karanchu, pero chay yachrakushanmantapacha sienten alegrita ayllunkunaman wamrankunapaq qillaykunata reciben kay proyecto SBSmanta. Nuqa aparte mana feldepi trabajayshaymantaqa wakin warmikunawan rurayani wasipi artesaniapi trabajani. Kay vinchitakunata rurani nuqaqa wakin warmisitakunawanqa kay vinchata churakuni kay nuqa kayman churakuni chayta ruranillapa nuqakuna vestikunillapa kay vestiruyllapamatapas nuqakuna rurar rantikunillapa kaykunata nuqakuna yachachinillapa warmisitakunata y cuidakananpaq planificación familiar chay yachachinillapa nuqakuna avespi yanapani warmikunata. Chay warmikunaqa yachakusha cuidananpaq chakrankunata, chay mundinkunata ama rupananpaq, ama rupar chay animalkuna mundipi qischakananpaq. Chaynu yachakushashpana ashwan yachachinakur cuidayanllapa chay mundinkunata washananllapapaq. Nuqukuna tayshayllapapi yachachinakur rurashkanillapa kay felde SBSmanta chayta yachakur, pero kusala shumaq allin ruraykunapaq wamrankunata yachachinanpaq qillaykunawan yanapayan.
One of the greatest threats to this planet is the expanding human population that places excessive demands on natural resources which we are unable to sustain. This, combined with our tendency for overconsumption, has placed this planet at great peril. Curbing an unsustainable population growth through women empowerment is the key to saving spectacled bears and, of course, our planet. Please support SBC in any way you can, through donations or even volunteering here in North America, or even coming down to Peru, and also helping us to find new clients to sell our product. Thanks again, and thanks for joining me today. Take care.
Well, now I want a felty spectacle bear in my collection. Robin, you're gonna have to tell me how to get one of those. I have the pleasure of introducing to you Robin Appleton. She's the president of Spectacle Bear Conservation. Robin has over 20 years of experience studying bears and other wild animals in the field. She grew up on Canada's west coast, spending summers in the Alpine with her parents in search of bears. She's been working on bears for a long time. She went on to do a master's degree, which was also focused on bear research. And after learning about the little known spectacle bears in Peru's endangered dry forest, Robin decided to dedicate her efforts towards protecting them. She's using the data that is gathered by her organization to complete a doctoral thesis at the University of British Columbia. Welcome, Robin.
Hi, everybody.
Yes, this was amazing. I actually am serious. How do we order the felty spectacle bear?
Well, you can actually order them online. Yeah, but if you want them before Christmas, you have to order them a month before. But yeah, we have lots of different products. You can order them online. They're actually in stores all over North America, so you can find them in Canada, in the US, and I think perhaps even a few places in England, but I'm not sure. So, but for now, the best place is to order them online.
Well, for everyone who's listening who didn't know what to get their family member who loves wild animals, there we go. That's your idea. You can say it came from me. Thank you. So Carol Davis would like to know how the spectacle bear is doing. Are the populations stable, improving, or declining?
Well, that's a big question. I mean, overall, we know populations in general aren't doing very well. So with the loss of habitat, most populations are declining. The bear that we're focusing on, we call the Tombis bear, is a distinct bear population that's disconnected from the main Andean bear population. And yeah, they're not doing really well. Yeah, it's a small population. The habitat's being lost, and so the bears aren't getting access to proper food and the resources they need, water holes. But it's not all doom and gloom. So we're really working hard to try to secure that habitat through land purchases and working with the local communities to create private protected areas. And so that's a really big initiative right now that we're running. We don't have a lot of time. And so I can't say that, I mean, we feel optimistic, but we're also panicked. So every year it's worse and worse and worse. And so we're becoming a bit more active in the conservation projects, building water holes, purchasing land, trying to do reforestation and so on. So yeah, there's still hope.
Hope is good. And I know that everyone watching is a doer and they want to do something to save the spectacled bear. So what is the biggest need for SBC right now? And if you had unlimited funds, what would be the first thing that you would do?
Oh, unlimited funds would be a dream come true, but I know that's unrealistic too. The biggest thing right now is we've identified some really key parcels of land that we need to purchase. We can't obviously buy all of the habitat that bears need, but there are areas that are high density of food or water, or there are areas to connect to important areas. And so we're hoping in the next 2 years to purchase those parcels of land. And the last 2 years, we've also purchased some prime bear habitat areas. And so right now we're trying to enhance those parcels of land. And so reforestation is a project that we're working on. We're building water holes so that the bears have access to water. It's an arid environment. So as you know, there is no life without water. And that's really important for them. They need the water to thermoregulate. Hopefully they can walk more, they can access more food. So that's also a big project of ours. And then of course, the Felty program that you've just heard so much about is also a very, very large and important initiative of ours. So that helps us connect with all of the villages that we're working with throughout the watershed. We use that as a way of building a trust and a relationship with the communities, but it also supplies the women with an ongoing income, which also is a benefit through conservation and also changes some of their habits. And so we're scaling up that program a lot right now, which is amazing. It's also scary, and we need to find more clients and also sell more products. So if anybody has any idea, I'm always putting that out there, of stores in their local towns or cities or wherever they live around the world that might want to carry a beautiful product like that. Let us know. We're always looking for more.
Absolutely. So everyone, you heard it. There's multiple ways to help the spectacled bear. So please do something. Helen Lang, sorry, would like to know you, because you just mentioned family planning. So she'd like to know if the women would appreciate access to family planning services, such as contraceptives, and also would their husbands or partners accept this?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a good question, because I mean, that's a massive problem. I mean, the reason that there's no land is because the families are so big. So that's something we started a long time ago, especially up in the higher Indigenous communities. People are having 10 to 12, 13 children. They start at age 13 to 15. And one of the things we realized early on, women do have access to free contraception, but the problem was they were being sold through the clinics. And so people weren't purchasing them. They also had some beliefs that they make you really ill and a number of different issues. So Felicita was heading up that program for us. And we were, not just as part of the Felty program, we were putting on workshops and giving access. And we were also the distributor for the pill, actually, the contraceptive pill. So now they don't have to purchase it. And it doesn't seem to be a problem. I know in some cultures, men don't support that, but that's not really the case here. I think it's more about education and helping people have access to that. So it's a very important part of what we do too.
Yeah, thank you for providing that access to them. The last question for you would be from Lilia Babe, who would like to know whether human-bear conflict could potentially increase in future years.
Yeah, I would say we're already seeing that. So I know in other regions, they see a lot more conflict than we have in the past, but as habitat becomes more isolated, bears have less access to good quality habitat. We're seeing a lot more attacks on cattle, access to corn fields and so on, and retaliatory killing. So in some of the new areas, we're working with a new Indigenous community, and it sounds like one of the villages that we just started working with, they're killing numerous bears every year. So that wasn't what we thought as a major threat for us, but as we move into these new regions that are more isolated and more fragmented, we're seeing that as a major threat as well. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Robin. You will be seeing my order as soon as we are done here. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us today. And folks, I hope you learned as much as I did about the awesome work that is done by all these amazing teams. Please feel free to check out their booths and ask them more questions, but also sign up for their newsletters on their respective websites to learn more about their projects. And I realized that for the long-term supporters of WCN, mine is probably a new face around here. And I forgot to introduce myself. I am WCN Senior Program Manager. I started back in June, and I look forward to meeting you all at future events. And unfortunately, that concludes day 2 of Wildlife Conservation Expo. However, there is more to be learned tomorrow. So be sure to join us for day 3, which starts at 12 noon Pacific time. We will be hearing from teams working on combating wildlife crime. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Have a great day and see you tomorrow.